She is the most talked about, perhaps the most admired woman of the 20th century, and we always call her Jackie, as if we really knew her. But few agree on exactly who Jacqueline Kennedy Onasis really is, or what she means to our history. In this program, a Jackie you've never met before will help us answer those questions. I'm Peter Graves. This is Biography. Jacqueline Kennedy Onasis is a fascinating study in public life and personal style. For a time, she was like a princess to us, leading a charmed life full of elegance and sophistication. And yet some of the brutal events that she endured would eventually brand her life with the elements of Greek tragedy. Her remarkable story is one of the most compelling dramas of our time. In November of 1963, the world was stunned by the death of the American President John F. Kennedy. His assassination marked the beginning of a dark period in our history, but on this day, it was his young family and especially his 34-year-old widow, Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy, who captured our hearts. A woman of extraordinary poise and fortitude, Jackie rose from the depths of this tragedy with a healing message of love.
I want to take this opportunity to express my appreciation for the hundreds of thousands of messages, nearly 800,000 in all, which my children and I have received over the past few weeks. The knowledge of the affection in which my husband was held by all of you has sustained me, and the warmth of these tributes is something I shall never forget. Whenever I can bear to, I read them. All his bright light gone from the world. All of you who have written to me know how much we all loved him, and that he returned that love in full measure.
Who was the little girl who grew up to become the most famous public figure in the world? With her beloved father, Jack Bouvier, Jackie enjoyed a privileged childhood, as did her sister Lee. Born in 1929, Jackie was a child of the Great Depression, but she never wanted for material things. Her family lived at fashionable addresses in town and on Long Island. Janet Lee, Jackie's mother, and Jack Bouvier would have marital problems, but while the girls were small, there was plenty to be grateful for. Jackie blossomed into a sensitive and strong-willed individual.
I am one of Jackie's first cousins. My mother was her father's sister. And we all used to get together in the summer in East Hampton, Long Island, at my grandfather's house, a place that was called La Sata. And he would hold about 2-month-long reunions of the entire family every summer. So we all stayed in the same house, and we all drew quite close at that time of the year. And I have many poignant memories of Jackie from that era. She was almost always dressed in riding costume, in boots and jodhpurs. And while her other cousins were down at the beach or playing tennis or running around in cars, she was, day after day, she would be in the riding ring. She was of an extraordinary young athlete. She wasn't the type that liked to pal around with all the young people, with all her other young cousins. She usually preferred to be off by herself, either up in her room reading poetry, or, as I say, endlessly working out those horses.
One of the poems Jackie composed at age 10 revealed an innocent love of the ocean. "Oh, to live by the sea is my only wish," she wrote. And in fact, swimming and sailing and walks along the beach would always be in Jackie's life. But the divorce of her parents dealt a painful blow to her innocence.
It was a very Catholic family, French Catholic family. And the divorce was a rather nasty one, because it developed that Jack Bouvier was fooling around on his wife, and she got very upset about it. So it was a nasty divorce, and then her mother rather quickly found another man and married him, a man who was much, much wealthier than Jack Bouvier. His name was Hugh Auchincloss, and he lived in a huge mansion up in Newport. So Jackie was uprooted from Long Island, where she had grown up, East Hampton, Long Island, and uprooted from New York, where she spent the winter, and went up to Newport, Rhode Island, to live with the Auchinclosses. It must have been a difficult adjustment, because it was a very different kind of family. The Bouviers, coming from a southern French family, were rather temperamental and somewhat Mediterranean, let us say, in temperament. But the Auchinclosses were real old New England wasps.
In that conservative tradition, Jackie was sent off to exclusive girls' schools in the country. Then came prestigious Vassar College. There, and later at the Sorbonne in Paris, Jackie took her studies seriously. But it was her fresh beauty that put her in the spotlight as 1947's debutante of the year. In an era of narrowly defined social roles, the goal of most young women was supposed to be to catch a husband. And yet, not to be a housewife was the wish Jackie expressed in one of her school yearbooks. And so to the nation's capital and a job paying $42.50 a week. As the inquiring photographer for a Washington paper, it was Jackie who chased celebrities in the early days, including 2 future presidential rivals. No one can say who fell in love first, the bachelor congressman from Massachusetts with his Irish charm and athletic good looks, or the working girl with the inquisitive mind and unforgettable face. But Jackie did let us know where it all began.
I met him at the home of friends of ours who'd been shamelessly matchmaking for a year. And usually that doesn't work out, but this time it did, so I'm very grateful to them.
The ensuing 2-year courtship was between kindred spirits, but very different people. One a creature of politics, the other a lover of style and culture. At the Kennedy compound in Hyannisport, the courtship unfolded in an atmosphere of fun and games. The wedding of the year, as it was called, took place in Newport, Rhode Island on September 12, 1953. The reception afterward had the happy purpose and unforced joy of any wedding, and Joe and Rose Kennedy joined in the celebration. But this was no ordinary bride and groom, and no ordinary day. For Jackie, it was the start of a challenging new way of life. She was now part of her husband's large, competitive, and sometimes rambunctious family. Such was the fascination with their match that Jack and Jackie would be under constant scrutiny from now on. This would shape them both into figures larger than life on the American scene.
I was born in New York.
Your maiden name?
Jacqueline Bouvier.
Bouvier. French?
That's right.
Where did you go on your honeymoon?
We went to Acapulco, Mexico.
Do any fishing?
Yes, my husband caught a 10-foot sailfish, which he has in his office.
A real prize catch. Did you help him haul it in?
Well, not really, but I was in the boat. All I did was pour water on him.
You poured water on him?
Yeah.
You say him, you mean the fish?
Well, no, my husband.
On your husband?
Because it was so hot in that boiling sun, and he had to fight the fish for about 3 hours. So I had to stay there pouring water on him.